Money Heist explained. If you enjoy heist films, Netflix has a huge selection for you. The Spanish-language original, Money Heist, portrays an elaborate heist masterminded by a man known as the Professor. Because of Netflix's exposure, the show has become a favorite among foreign audiences in addition to its great appeal in Spain. Before we move to the next step, please subscribe my YouTube channel so that you can be updated by my new videos. The show opens with Tokyo, a lady who identifies herself as such, fleeing the cops. He's devised a scheme that will net them more money than any heist has ever yielded. He's also enlisted the help of a number of other individuals, all of whom are experts in their respective fields. They work on perfecting the idea for 5 months. Every good plan necessitates the presence of a mastermind. The larger the operation, the higher the individual's genius. The man behind the scenes in Money Heist is a man who goes by the moniker Professor. Because everyone on the crew has had some sort of run-in with the authorities, they all run the risk of being identified. It's easier for cops to figure out who they are and what charges they potentially face. There is no such thing with the Professor. So far, we've been able to piece together certain details based on his interactions with various individuals. Sergio is his real name, which Berlin uses to address him in the final episode. His father was a thief, but he was unaware of it until it was too late. The Professor explains that he had spent much of his life sick and in hospitals, so he read a lot. Given his father's influence, we can assume that he researched extensively about the topics that would eventually become crucial to his heist planning. Meanwhile, things appear to be calming down at the bank. The team recovers not just from the loss of a significant portion of its leverage, but also from the loss of Oslo, following the brave escape of some of the hostages. One of the hostages attacks him with a pipe while attempting to flee. He also loses a lot of blood, leaving him brain dead. The second season of Money Crime starts with the Professor waiting in the car as Raquel raids the location where the heist was planned. She finds their plates, photos, and other belongings, as well as the board where the plan had been put down to the minute. While we wait for her to learn something about the Professor, we learn that it was all part of his master plan. He traveled back to Toledo after stealing medications from the pharmacy and planted the evidence, giving the cops just enough to keep them busy for a few more days. Despite Berlin's assurances that they would wait until the last possible moment, she manages to turn Rio and Denver against him. The hostages, meantime, are losing their cool and, led by Arturito, devise a fresh scheme to break out of the bank. Losses are experienced on both parties as the plan hangs by a thread. Money Heist manages to boost the ante despite a lower episode count in the second season with a plot that never ceases to surprise you. The tension builds from the first episode to the finale, with the team members turning against each other and the Professor attempting to keep his identity hidden from Raquel. We expect Arturito to accept the money despite his animosity towards the kidnappers. Ignoring the fact that his sentiments and actions during the heist are justified, he is an unlikable guy. We despise him because of his treatment of Monica and the selfishness he exhibits time and time again. That's why we're confident he'll accept the $1 million as compensation for what they did to him. While other hostages were not as despised as he, they might accept the money in exchange for the traumatic experience. The third season of Money Heist starts with the squad was successful in achieving its goal. Rio was freed from his captivity and torment, and reunited with Tokyo. Rio understood during his solitude that he wasn't an equal partner with Tokyo. Sierra severely injured one of the team's toughest and most brave members by manipulating Nairobi, Alba Flores, and her son. Sierra revealed the second half of her plan as they were ministering to Nairobi's wounds, bringing in tanks to destroy the bank's doors. That's when Tokyo and Denver, Jamie Laurent, pulled out all the stops. Both of them launched grenade launchers towards the approaching tanks. That meant that this rebel group, which prides itself on outwitting its foes rather than resorting to bloodshed, was captured on tape fighting Spanish forces directly. The Professor is responsible for that frantic appeal to action. The Professor's ultimate plan was for him and his girlfriend, former cop Lisbon, Itziar Ituo, to flee the bank and draw the cops' attention to themselves. Unfortunately, even the best theft does not always go as planned. Lisbon and the Professor were separated and kept at gunpoint in a barn. She was eventually given over to the authorities, who murdered her in front of the professor. Inspector Sierra stuffed a phone into a blue teddy bear and left it outside the bank. Nairobi immediately recognized the recipient of the teddy animal. Nairobi used to pack her son's toy bear with cocaine, heroin, and painkillers to avoid suspicion when completing drug deals at the park while she was a drug dealer. One of Nairobi's biggest regrets is using her kid as a drug mule, and Sierra joyfully exploited that weakness. Of course, saving Nairobi after she was shot by a sniper at the end of Season 3 is the top priority at the start of Season 4.
Assuming command, the brains.
Nairobi, on the other hand, knows that this group can't do anything without wanting to beat each other up. She wants the gang to hand her over to the cops so she can receive adequate medical attention. Tokyo, for the first time in her life, uses her intellect and stages a coup, leading the surgery via video conferencing with a surgeon in Pakistan. Nairobi has previously persuaded Tokyo to ask the professor to take over as leader this time, but he shoots her down. Meanwhile, the professor is negotiating a peace pact with the police in order to secure assistance for Nairobi and the supplies required for the surgery. Tokyo successfully removes a part of Nairobi's lung, but saves her life in the end. Palmero is having a temper tantrum because Tokyo has removed him from authority. Respect to the professor, though, for remaining composed after believing Raquel had been killed by police. He deceived the authorities into believing the professor had escaped, but it nevertheless took its toll on the professor. We already knew Raquel and Alicia had a past, but it comes to light as Alicia interrogates Raquel about her role in the crime. She initially decides to call her family to alert them that police know where they live and are coming, threatening her with never seeing her daughter again unless police time. Gandia made contact with police from a panic room, according to Antonanzas, and the professor relays this information to Tokyo. Gandia knocks her out and kidnaps her before she can tell the rest of the crew, proclaiming it to the rest of the bank. Gandia throws a grenade into an elevator Rio and Denver are in, causing even more terror, but the two manage to avoid being killed by the blast. After everything that has happened, the gang gets into a shootout with Gandia outside of Tokyo and Nairobi. Gandia escapes through a duct and finds Nairobi in the same room as him, where he takes her as his next hostage. When the torture film was released, authorities were forced to issue a statement rejecting the charges. The professor then went on camera to not only confirm Rio's story, but also to inform everyone about Raquel's illegal detention outside the bank. Arturo went mad in his attempt to assassinate Denver, and the 5th season began with a hostage ambush led by him. Stockholm shot him as a response, only to live with guilt for the rest of the season. She had anxiety attacks after having hallucinations about seeing Arturo's ghost. And while Stockholm was comatose, her gang battled an infiltrating army led by Sagasta and his team of troops, including Gandia, who had blood in his eyes. Tokyo has its share of great moments. She enrages Gandia in order to cause a schism in the army, as directed by the professor. She even catches a grenade and throws it back at the attackers, earning plaudits from the audience. In short, Tokyo was defending her fort on her own, with Denver and Manila largely providing cover. She isn't shot for long enough after that. Tokyo winks at Gandia before he can flee, and her gang members across the river hear the blast and applaud Tokyo's sacrifice. With her, she took out Gandia and a few more of Sagasta's men. At the stormwater tank, the professor is inconsolable. I hope you find this video helpful. If you liked the video, do like and subscribe as it really helps our channel, and do remember to give your feedback in the comments below.